everybody. Welcome to this session. And I'm really excited because आज थोड़ा सा ये role reversal हो रहा है with Kartik. And usually he's the one who is asking everybody lots of questions and stuff. So I'm excited that today I'm the one who's going to be grilling him. I'm Meenu. And yeah, so shall we begin, Kartik? You're ready with
Absolutely.
your
Before you do, let me quickly say a big thank you to you for making time and doing this initially. And our audience knows I'm brutally honest. Initially, my thought was that I would do this as separate reels, just talking about the sort of main things that I want asked, and then I figured that this will, in any case, be more natural and more fun. Meenu and I go back some ways, and she's someone I deeply admire for a host of reasons. If I start talking about that, the entire episode will be consumed by that alone. Suffice to say that she's a very conscious, aware, sensitive individual, and really genuinely felt like the most appropriate person to do this. And she was very sweet and agreed to indulge me. I did not, as I do with other people, have to coerce her.
thank you. And uh, so we are running Driveway Devi for the last 3.5 years. And could you share with us, like, how has it been and like how have things evolved for you and
Sure.
for Driveway Devi?
Honestly, it's been really tough. And I'll tell you why it's been tough. It's been tough because ये एक ऐसा ये एक ऐसा डेवलपमेंट रहा है, द स्टार्ट ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इटसेल्फ, जिसमें मैं दिन प्रतिदिन और ज्यादा इन्वॉल्व होते चले गया हूं. एंड देयर वाज अ लॉन्ग लॉन्ग पीरियड वेयर honestly my other work was suffering on account of this, because it and the thing is that it was this very head versus heart thing where my heart belonged here, but at the same time I somehow had to put food at the table, or at least do my bit uh, in that endeavor. My wife and I both work and sort of try and run our family. तो उस दृष्टि से थोड़ा मुश्किल हो रहा था. So anyway, to cut a long story short, that involvement kept on increasing, and it so happened that the journey within Driveway Devi, which is dedicated to spreading awareness about mental health, psychoeducation, etc., was kind of running parallel to my own mental health journey, particularly post my cancer, where I was really suffering myself, but I was on a firm path of healing with my own therapist and psychiatrist, and was becoming more and more clear about who I am and why I am, and all of those big questions that hopefully occur to an individual at some stage in life. And then it's sort of what's happened most recently, and the reason why we're here is that it really culminated in my deep realization that perhaps I'm meant to be in some kind of role of therapist or counselor myself, and that is my final stroke larger calling. And once that happened, I could completely pivot and study the subject myself and get a certain sort of certification, and therefore Driveway Devi has evolved, extended, because our core mission still remains what it is: a lot of psycho awareness, a lot of dialogue, a lot of events. but it has been joined by the vertical of life guidance, which is our counseling services.
Interesting, actually. Like the way you correlated your journey with what is happening, because life, it seems, is like हम सोचते हैं बहुत कुछ की जो सोचते हैं इस कुछ सोच के साथ शुरू करते हैं, बट कुछ ना कुछ लाइफ में जो चेंजेस होते हैं उसके साथ दैट आल्सो लाइक changes. And
Yeah.
so, do you think the cause has changed, or like is it?
No, not at all. Like I said, the cause has remained very much the same. In fact, if anything, वो cause अब हम और भी holistic और robust तरीके से service कर सकते हैं या serve कर सकते हैं. Because if you see, what we've done is we've essentially divided it between mental health, education, and counseling. I've been teaching for 12, 13 years. My teaching,
Yeah,
in any case, without even me myself realizing, had a very tangible and implicit element of what is now fancily called social emotional learning. I was always, in any case, through my communication skills classes, telling my students certain things that had deeply embedded connections with a process of self discovery, individuality, finding one's identity and purpose, speaking in a manner where it was not offensive, it was empathetic, all of these elements that we now increasingly recognize as part of an umbrella called social emotional learning was something that I was doing in any case. So now to be able to sort of unite these three: counseling, psychological counseling, and education, and the mental health work, which is more awareness generating related, all of it is happening simultaneously, and it's just actually a lot more potent and powerful and complete, actually.
yeah. And like what is occurring to me right now while you are talking about it is that जो आप ऑलरेडी कर रहे थे अब उसे बस आप एक नाम दे रहे हैं. It seems something like that, which is great. Like anyway, you have been doing it for a really long time, like ever since I know you. So that's great. And so इसके क्या implications है, like with your organization, and like uh, what do you think about this? Like, how is it going to impact Driveway Devi?
Um, Well, we need funding and manpower, human resource, because काम बहुत बढ़ गया है
Yeah,
and आगे जाते हुए बढ़ेगा ही. And I don't say that from um, an intellectually arrogant place. I say that simply recognizing and being all too familiar with the current situation of the world in which we find ourselves, particularly when you see it through the lens of youngsters, students, and children. They're in very, very uncharted waters. Everybody is a lot very fearful of what kind of future they may have with AI, what the job market will be, what kind of opportunities and careers and vocations and paths will even exist. And going forward, I think only one or two things uh, one can be sure of to rely on to develop as a skill or attribute or quality. One is individuality, because I think the more a young person clones themselves, so just becomes part of that breed of, let's say, MBAs or engineers or whatever, the less they will stand out and be of value tomorrow. That, and also as evolved an emotional quotient as possible, because that again is the one area where artificial intelligence has limitations, really. I mean, you had this entire wave of people seeking therapy and counseling from AI bots, and then quickly realized how counterproductive that can be. Of course, I mean, that's a very vast subject, but simply because AI is built on a foundation of validation, therapy is not just about
Yeah.
validation, all of those things. So I think future proofing an individual with an education, individuality, and deep emotional awareness are two cornerstones that ought to be part of that. And therefore, I see our work going on increasing. I mean, I'm visiting more and more schools, conducting workshops around SEL and things like that. So yeah, we'll need a team very shortly. We've needed one for a while, but now more than ever.
I'm really enjoying the way, like, the zest and dedication with which you are talking about this. It's nice to see that and know so much more about, like, the deeper vision that is driving Driveway Devi, it seems. So that's nice to hear. And uh, also, I was wondering whether an organization should be having a singular focus and mission, जैसे पहले था अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करना एंड कुछ मिथ्स है उनको बस्ट करना. सो अब जैसे कुछ चेंज हो रहा है, डू यू थिंक कुछ कॉम्प्लेक्स हो रहा है इन दिस, और इज इट लाइक
Yeah,
यू
I mean,
थिंक इट्स
that's
अ
that's a great
स्मूथ.
question, and that's a question that I've always not struggled with, but I've until recently very happily propagated to people who seek my advice or counsel. By the way, it still baffles me why they do, but anyway, we'll leave that for another time. But I always say, please, please, try and have a singular focus. It always works better because इसमें कुछ rocket science नहीं है. It is entirely possible that when you have multiple things, then you will not be able to do justice to any one of them, and all will become little compromised. Having said that, I feel in the mental health space right now, because our country is as diverse as it is. Uh, there's this famous thing about every 100 kilometers, everything changes in India, from language to dialect to cuisine to everything. Almost as diverse also is sociological change in our country. Now, within Jaipur, there may be a locality where the people living there are very much aligned with the value system that an alternative school is propagating and will send their children there. While the rest of Jaipur may be at a sociological stage where their aspiration is to send their children to the school that offers the most snazzy infrastructure. So, what
Yeah.
I'm simply saying is that then you take that tendency and juxtapose it across the country. It's mind boggling how many Indias there are within the India. And so
Yeah.
when I think about mental health and the various stages and requirements of each of these sociological groups across the country, I think it'll be a huge disservice to then only function, or sorry, then only focus on one function, because there is an India
Yeah.
that is seeking SEL for their children. There is an India who doesn't even know the difference between a psychologist and psychiatrist. There are so many Indias.
कार्तिक, आई अंडरस्टैंड दैट लाइफ गाइडेंस एक बहुत ही क्रूशियल मैटर होता है. किसी भी इंडिविजुअल को आप कुछ भी गाइड कर रहे हो, कोई भी एडवाइस दे रहे हो, सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक इज द रोल ऑफ एनी एक्सपर्टीज इन दिस, लाइक, एंड आप क्या करते हो अपने जो भी आप गाइडेंस देते हो उसको एक अप्रोप्रिएट आप खुद भी मान सको, उसके लिए व्हाट डू यू
Hmm. Okay, so this is a very, very important question, and it's a very selfish question to clarify precisely what we are doing and offering under this counseling now sort of vertical of ours. हम शुरुआत से एक ब्रिज सर्विस ऑफर करते थे जहां पे people in distress would contact us, and then based on their specific type of distress जो हम उनसे थोड़ी डिटेल में बात करके समझने की कोशिश करते थे, उस आधार पे एंड एज पर देयर फाइनेंशियल स्टैंडिंग, क्योंकि वी अंडरस्टैंड दैट वन कैन गेट mental health therapeutic intervention all the way from it being pro bono to going up to quite expensive. तो क्या उन्हें एहसास हो रहा था एंड क्या वो अफोर्ड कर सकते थे, उसके बेसिस पे हम उन्हें एक पर्टिकुलर थेरेपिस्ट के साथ जोड़ देते थे. सो वी यूज टू make that introduction, and we used to sort of be with that individual until that process of hit and trial with a certain number of therapists was done, and that individual was satisfied that okay, fine, now X person and I are working out well, and I intend to remain with this person, because that's a process that tends to happen in this realm of medical help. It's not necessary कि आप पहले हड्डी के डॉक्टर के पास जाएं, you'll be like नहीं यार उसकी सलाह मुझे ठीक नहीं लगी, so let me go elsewhere. It's I always say it's like dating, and you have to have that awareness and that perseverance to go through that. तो ये हम ऑलरेडी कर रहे थे, दिस ब्रिज सर्विस. नाउ टू थिंग्स वेरी क्विकली. एक तो over the past 13 years, a lot of the students I had been teaching, as well as their families, had started actively seeking my advice and counsel on a slew of things, not limited to academic and career queries, but also other areas from sexuality to gender to identity, vagera, vagera. I used to always feel like a bit of an imposter because I didn't want to dispense with advice without at least having a certain fundamental domain knowledge कि भाई अब आप जब सलाह देते हैं साइकोलॉजिकल सलाह, तो आपको ये चीजें दिमाग में रखनी चाहिए, और ये चीजें तो बिल्कुल नहीं करनी चाहिए. So that is
Yeah.
one big reason I decided to study. The second was that even in the bridge service, many people, and I found that particularly, how should I put this so that it doesn't sound politically incorrect, but I suppose a certain type of audience, let's say, for example, many older students who were, let's say, at Ivy League colleges abroad, Indian origin, or, their parents, or those kinds of families, when they would talk to me and I would suggest therapists to them, they would say, nahi, 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 aap hi kar lo. So,
बता
and I
दीजिए.
think that there was, and that happened because there was a cultural context that was common. Um, uh, 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 and that's very, very important, because when you have that common cultural context, a lot of things do not have to be said and explained. You get it, you get each other. I get
Yeah, it's
the
the connection.
types.
I feel the connection is perhaps better when you understand the background and already बहुत कुछ पता है किसके बारे में.
मोस्ट डेफिनेटली. और इन लोगों के साथ कई बार ऐसा होता है, एंड दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई हैव सीन इन एजुकेशन एट स्कूल आल्सो. इट्स इन फैक्ट वन ऑफ द थिंग्स दैट आई ऑलवेज एडवाइज टीचर्स इन माय फैकल्टी इंटरेक्शंस कि अपने स्टूडेंट्स के वर्ल्ड से अपने आप को वाकिफ करिए. What pop culture are they into, what brands are they into. It sounds superficial, but these are huge things to make connections and bonds on the basis of. Oftentimes the two occupy completely different dimensions. So I think all of this came together, and then of course it goes without saying that the lived experience I've gathered, particularly in the past 5 or 7 years, of my own chronic depression, sort of partial bipolarity, this, that, and the other, and the healing journey that I had. Um, the biggest silver lining has been a very, very deep, authentic, and genuine understanding of how this works.
एक्चुअली जो भी आपने बहुत सारे आपके जो भी कुछ टॉक्स भी हैं यू हैव मेनी टाइम्स मेंशन्ड आल्सो लाइक वेरी क्लियरली दैट whatever you are doing and the way you are doing it is also very unorthodox.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
how will you explain this, and why don't you really like stick to what is the norm?
आई एम सो ग्लैड यू आस्क्ड मी दिस, बिकॉज बहुत लोग ऐसा सोचते हैं कि ये सिर्फ स्टाइलबाजी में ही वांट्स टू बी अनऑर्थोडॉक्स फॉर नो एक्चुअल रीजन. एंड आई टेल यू, specifically from a counseling perspective, there are one or two things that I do that are kind of against the norms of what we understand to be traditional psychotherapy. Fundamentally, please understand that all of psychotherapeutic theory was birthed, invented, and developed in the Western world. Um, in fact, I had a very, very interesting dialogue precisely around this with a remarkable psychologist recently, where we were talking about how, and this is nobody's fault, because these theories have been developed largely in the West from the white man's perspective, they don't necessarily, as it is, apply in a very Indian context. And nobody has really taken them and tweaked them or changed them or modified them to really understand and take into account the generational conditioning and the way the family construct has developed here. A
Yeah.
very effective example or simple example of this is, it's very easy, let's say in America, to tell a person, go make boundaries. Uh, it's not going to happen here. If you tell, especially a lady here, to go make boundaries, she'll be ousted from that family.
या आई रिमेम्बर्ड एक ओपरा विनफ्री के साथ में ऐश्वर्या राय और अभिषेक बच्चन का इंटरव्यू था. पता नहीं आपने देखा है कि नहीं, बट दिस आप जो बता रहे हैं वो बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग तरीके से उसमें डिपिक्ट हो रहा है इन दैट इंटरव्यू. सो ओपरा विनफ्री इज आस्किंग देम दैट like how do you live with, like, in this joint family system. And ये जो अभिषेक बच्चन है उसका रिप्लाई बड़ा ही इंटरेस्टिंग था. हाउ डज दैट लाइक शी वाज आस्किंग कि हाउ डज द जॉइंट being with your parents work, and he was like, how does living alone work, you know
Yeah.
like he just was so plain with that, and it was so interesting. Just अभी 2-3 दिन पहले I was just so yeah, what do you
सो या
think makes
सो
so
सो
much sense?
ये तो एक उदाहरण है. ऐसे कितने
Yeah,
सिचुएशंस होती हैं in the therapeutic realm or in the alliance that you form with your client, where any number of circumstances or situations in which you would not be able to give them necessarily a tool or a technique to navigate that situation as per what has been prescribed, in so many academic books. That's number one. That's one reason I deviate. And the other reason is that बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग ये है कि एज ए काउंसलर और अ थेरेपिस्ट और अ साइकोलॉजिस्ट, आप अपनी निजी राय एक सिचुएशन के बारे में, एक बिहेवियर के बारे में और एक व्यक्ति के बारे में शेयर नहीं करेंगे. योर टास्क इज चीफली टू get your client to see certain perspectives that perhaps they have been unable to see till then for XYZ reasons. You just simply do not have the luxury of that much time in most cases. That is the other thing. किसी के पास आज के दिन समय नहीं है
also
कि वो छह
actually
महीने
like मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि एक तो टाइम की कमी है, और दूसरा जो सामने वाले लोग आते हैं उनके माइंड में एक सॉल्यूशन बेस्ड अप्रोच ही रहता है कि मुझे इस चीज का अब बताओ क्या करना है। मतलब लाइक यू नो इट्स लाइक हम वो एक क्वेश्चन के साथ आते हैं कि इसका क्या सॉल्यूशन है। सो समटाइम्स इट्स आई थिंक क्वाइट ट्रिकी व्हाट यू आर एक्सप्लेनिंग एंड इंटरेस्टिंग।
सो
या
यही होता है बिकॉज ऑल्सो दिस होल थिंग हैज बिन फर्दर परपेचुएटेड बाय आप रेगुलर डॉक्टर के पास भी जाओ अब बिकॉज ऑफ access to information through the internet and AI, basically now you're going already having diagnosed yourself. तो आप essentially डॉक्टर के पास इसलिए जा रहे हो because you are not allowed to prescribe yourself medicines.
या
So you're
या
essentially going and saying मेरे पास ये बीमारी है पर्चा लिख के दे दो.
या
So, with that mindset, with a certain amount of impatience, with instant gratification having become the norm, so many factors, neither the client nor you. You take that client on a 6 month journey of asking themselves the right question. In 2 months, they'll be like, you are totally ineffective. You're useless.
ये सारा कुछ जान के समझ के ड्राइवे देवी लाइफ गाइडेंस के बारे में आई एम लाइक काइंड ऑफ फीलिंग रिलीव्ड यू नो कि देयर इज लाइक हैं उस तरह के लोग भी जो बहुत सारे अलग अलग पर्सपेक्टिव से सोच रहे हैं, विच इज अ ग्रेट थिंग आई थिंक। So nice to understand this from you. And of course, the obvious question next would be, और क्या क्या इंटरेस्टिंग और व्हाट इज द रोड अहेड, लाइक यू नो जो कि आपका विजन है, किस तरह से आप सोच रहे हैं कि आप उसको रियल करेंगे।
So I think road ahead for most organizations, I don't know the correct nomenclature. I never went to business school. I'm a fake Marwari. So basically, from what I've understood, is for any organization that's on a path of growing or evolving, one way of evolving is in terms of the various functions that it serves. I think in that regard, we are precisely where we need to be in terms of the verticals that we have. I don't think we need to or we should add more or anything of that sort. I think the growth now and the evolution is to be able to just do this work on a larger scale, uh, not just scale on a I'll give you an example. For instance, करीब 2 महीने पहले we had a rock music for mental health evening. And there was
या
this wonderful girl, brilliant musician from Delhi who had come down to perform. I want very much to remain focused in my city and state. I love it. I think there's a dire need. I have no aspirations कि मैं पूरा country conquer कर लूं. But even within the city, because जिस भी चीज के साथ मेंटल हेल्थ जुड़ता है उससे लोग अभी भी इतना घबरा जाते हैं और इतना सस्पिशियस हो जाते हैं. सो आई थिंक द मेन फोकस दैट आई वुड वांट for Driveway Devi to have, at least in the short to medium term, is to just ensure quality offering that is patronized by more people. That has been a very very big challenge. I don't want to be one of those organizations that tricks people into coming by concealing the fact कि ये mental health से जुड़ा हुआ कोई event हो रहा है या कुछ हो रहा है. And I want that despite saying it loud and proud, that a lot of people come and attend.
अमेजिंग एंड विश यू ऑल द बेस्ट कार्तिक। lovely speaking to you and knowing much more about the work that you're doing.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much for
This was
this chance to ask you
you
whatever I wanted.
navigated the conversation so beautifully and actually got me so excited to talk. So I'm very very happy and thank you very much for making the time.
See you, everybody. Thank you.